Hi guys, we're going to continue talking about inequalities today. So there's one about inequalities that's different from solving equations, and we're going to see if you guys can figure it out. So I have these numbers. 16 is greater than 8, which we know is a true statement. We're going to divide both sides by -2 and see what we get. Well, 16 divided by -2 would be -8, and 8 divided by -2 would be -4. Well, -4 is larger than -8, right? All right, what would happen if we divide just the original numbers by +2? So I'm always going to come back to the 16 and 8, just so you know. Well, if I divide by a +2, these would both be positive, and 8 is bigger than 4. Again, if I go back to the original numbers and divide by -4, this would be -4 and -2. Well, -2 is bigger than -4. If we divide by +4, those would be the positive numbers, and we can see that 4 is bigger than 2. Same thing if we divide by -8. We would get a -2 and -1, in which case -1 is bigger than -2. And if we divide by the positives, we would get a +2 and a +1. Okay? So if we're looking at this, okay, we can see that when we divided by a positive number, the sign, or the inequality sign, stayed in the same direction. But when we divided by a negative number, okay, the inequality flipped directions. Okay? So if we divide by a negative, and I should say if we divide both sides, oops, that was terrible. Let me rewrite this, guys. Okay? If we divide both sides by a negative, we flip the inequality. Okay, so if you need a second to write that down, go ahead and pause the video. Let's see if the same thing happens with multiplication. So let's multiply. Again, we're going to start with our original numbers, so this 4 and 7. We're going to multiply both sides by -2. So that would be -8 and -14. Well, -8 is definitely bigger than -14. If we do the +2, we would get 8 and 14. And 14 is bigger than 8. If we multiply by -3, that would be -12 and -21. And again, -12 is bigger than -21. And the positives would be +12 and 21 for a multiple by 3. And 21 is bigger than 12. So you can kind of see this pattern start to form again, just like with our division. 5 is 35. So this would be a +20 and a +35. And we would go like this. Okay. So again, we can see if we're multiplying by a negative number, okay, those signs all flipped directions. But when we multiply by a positive number, they all stayed exactly the same as when we started. Okay? So the same rule applies here. So you could actually make the statement if you multiply or divide. I'll zoom out in a second. Both sides by a negative, you flip the inequality. So go ahead and feel free to pause that video if you need to get that written down. So again, that's our very big difference between inequalities and equations, is if we multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you must flip the inequality sign. And that's usually where my students make the biggest mistake. Okay? And actually, this is kind of written right there for you if you didn't want to write down that blue part. All right, so let's talk. Okay, so again, I'm always thinking, what's stopping y from being by itself? And it's the -5, and it's being multiplied by y. So in order to get it to the other side, I need to divide by -5. Notice I divided both sides by a negative. It's not because this is negative. It's because I divided both sides by a negative. So I'm going to have y. I divided by a negative, so I have to flip the inequality. -10 divided by -5 is a +2. Okay. Now with inequalities, we always graph our solution. Okay, so just like what we did yesterday, we're going to have a 2 we'll put numbers on each side. This would be a closed dot because it's equal to. And since we want things greater than y, so 3 would be greater than 2. All right, let's go ahead and try this one. So again, the negative 1/2 is stopping p from being by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1/2. So I'm going to get p is less than or equal to, because I divided both sides by a negative, I'm going to have to flip my inequality sign. And then off to the side, 3 over 1 times 2 over negative 1 would give me negative 6. Because we have to do copy dot flip flop when we're dividing fractions. And again, I'm going to graph this wonderfulness. So we're going to have negative 6, negative 7, and negative 5. I'm going to go ahead and put my closed dot above negative 6 since it's an equal to. And since it says less than negative 6, we are going to go ahead and draw an arrow going that direction. Again, if you need to, you can always test that point and be like, okay, I know negative 7 is less than or equal to negative 6, so that checks out. All right, why don't you go ahead and try this one on your own. So we're going to have negative 4x is greater than 1.6, so we're going to divide by 0.04. And again, because we divided both sides by negative, we have to flip that wonderful inequality. Okay. And if we do 1.6 divided by negative 0.4, that would be negative 4. And again, anytime we have an inequality, we'd like to graph it so we can show all of our solutions. So we're going to have negative 4. So that would mean this would be a negative 5, negative 3. And I'm going to have an open dot since it's not equal to, and I want things less than negative 4. All right. This is obviously not your homework. You're going to do that in class tomorrow, so don't worry about that. All right, good luck, and we will see you later. Bye.